Hey guys, welcome to Novel Bootcamp Week 2. This is the second in our series that will take you all the way from an idea to a complete draft of a novel in 12 weeks. So this is part of WordCamp. We are an offshoot of Skill Camp, which our biggest server you might know as Script Camp. So you should know a couple things before we start. The first is that you can we're in a stage channel on Discord right now, meaning that only I can normally be heard, but if you'd like to request to speak, you can click that hand icon at the bottom of the Discord pane, and I can bring you up to speak out loud. If I invite you up, you'll have to just click that green bar that says you've been invited to speak and click accept. So if you're watching on something that's not Discord, you should come join us on Discord so you can interact and join these live classes, which cover many different fun, interesting topics like writing books, and many other free classes coming up behind me here that are going to focus on topics like loglines and sketchbooks for a TV pilot. March 12th, that's going to be tomorrow, 11 to 1. That is the week 1 of our TV pilot bootcamp that's going to take you to finish draft of a pilot in 6 weeks. We have a novel outlining class on March 16th, and we'll be talking a bit about these principles of plotting and outlining today a little bit. We'll be getting more into that next week. And then we have a protagonist class, how to choose that best protagonist for your story, March 23rd at 6 p.m. So that's the week 1 of the pilot bootcamp, March 12th. And then I guess this is the new session of pilot bootcamp that starts April 21st. That's going to be 11 to 1. And new session of feature bootcamp starts April 23rd. So lots of classes going on WordCamp. We are a writing community focused on taking you from idea to polished manuscript with lots of free classes, events, and workshops, and some paid as well. So for the remainder of this course, this is the Novel Bootcamp. You should join Script Camp as a member if you've not already done so. You can do that at scriptcamp.net/membership. This will get you membership to WordCamp as well and all our other many different servers. You can scroll down to free trial, and you can sign up for 2 weeks of absolutely everything that we do on all of our different servers. I'm going to skip this bit about me just because I've gone over it before. We just want to tell you about all our different servers, including Code Camp, Toon Camp, Creator Camp, Film Camp. We've had classes on all of these so far. Some of these are still growing, but we'd love to add more classes to them soon. You can donate, become a supporting member, and get access to all the boot camps and labs from just $29 a month with that yearly discount. You can volunteer. If you know a language or skill you'd like to teach, you can contact me or Nacho, our co-founder. And last, you can refer a friend. You can refer somebody. You'll both get a free month of unlimited membership plus a free month of Arc Studio Pro, which is a great screenwriting formatting software. We have discounted rates for coverage on the website for our members as well. So we are offering things like story development sessions, script consultations, so like a full read-through instead of notes on your script, plus a half-hour phone call to clarify the major points of it and to answer any questions that you have remaining. We have premise and logline consultations for as low as just $19 for our unlimited members. So you will get big discounts, huge discounted rates for just being an unlimited member. This will also include things for WordCamp like first chapter consultation or query letter, manuscript proofread, line edit, developmental editing, basically any kind of edit or consultation you might want. So last week was prose and premise. Today we're going into loglines, and we're going to look at queries a little bit. I did a whole class on queries a couple days ago, which you should go back to and watch if you'd like to get a better sense of what the whole document there looks like. We're going to touch on queries today just as a method of seeing what does the entire story for the script essentially look like in a truncated form. We're not going to be writing queries today or anything like that, but we should just kind of get used to these abbreviated versions of the novel story because this is like a several hundred page long document. It's kind of difficult to conceptualize the whole thing and to hold the entire thing in your head. So you have to have this kind of shorter, abbreviated version of it that you can write out beforehand, which usually is going to be called our outline. And our pre-writing process is the act of, first of all, we come up with the general premise for the book. Then we move to logline, which is that one sentence that expresses what is this about. From there on, we're going to be filling out our sketchbook, which is going to be a sort of unsorted collage of all our ideas and influences, inspirations, and research material for that one project. We then move that up to story beats, which is a list of the major events of the story. We're not going to be finishing that until week 5, so no need to rush into that. We're still mostly at the stage of gathering information, gathering ideas, and trying to figure out what the book that you're writing is. Ideally, by the end of today's class, you will have a pretty clear idea of what exactly it is you're trying to write. hopefully we're also reading the things that we're trying to write, or reading similar genres to the things we're trying to write. So we will have time to tell us. In every class, we'll always be checking in and asking, what have you been reading lately? What have you learned or noticed, or what would you like to share about that? So that's the preview for the upcoming course. We're going to be starting pages by April 15th, but up until then, we're doing nothing but planning. This is a very planning-heavy, architecture-heavy course where we're going to be trying to figure out what happens in every chapter and building that really clear and coherent roadmap for the entire story before we dive into it and before we actually start writing the pages. You're going to try to figure out what it is that you're writing before you start. I know it's a revolutionary concept, but some folks work really well with this discovery writing kind of system where they will just start and just see what happens. And if you can write books like that and they turn out well, then you should definitely be doing that. It's difficult to teach that. So that's why we're going to be teaching the opposite end of the spectrum, which is heavy planning, figuring out what happens, not on every page necessarily, but we're going to be estimating like word counts for chapters. We're going to be determining where these different plot beats are going to fall. And then when you start writing the pages, it should go a lot quicker, a lot smoother. First draft should be done by May 27th if you follow the milestones of the class, but it's okay if you fall a little behind or can't finish within this time frame. Once we start pages, you'll be writing between 10 and 15,000 words per week. 10,000 words per week is probably fine, and that's actually quite difficult to keep up that pace, especially if you're not used to it. So maybe aim for writing a shorter book if you're not sure that you have the stamina to write 10,000 words a week. Maybe aim for writing something like middle grade or YA or something that will be, under that 70,000 word mark, and then it'll be just less work to do. So you're incentivized to pick the shorter idea in a bootcamp setting. If you still need to enroll, you can do that at scriptcamp.net/classes to just get the class on its own. Or if you want to, sign up for that unlimited membership, which will give you access to absolutely every class we have here, every event, every workshop. There's nothing that is excluded from unlimited membership. Just scroll down to free trial and you can start your 2 weeks of unlimited. And there's going to be a poll in the chats. If you plan to sign up but have not yet done so, Nacho will post in just a moment, a small poll that you can click the number 1, and it will indicate that you plan to sign up but haven't signed up yet. There it is. So you'll see those blue numbers there in the chats. Click that number 1 if you plan to sign up. You'll get instant access to all of our member-exclusive chat channels. Here's an overview of week 2. So post new paragraphs. Why did I put that? So this in our week 0, our assignment was to write a paragraph of fiction and to turn it in for some comments in week 1. If anyone, I guess, has not shared their paragraph yet and wants to do so, I'll leave a little room for that today. I don't necessarily know if we'll have a ton of time to critique and go into them, but you can share them and I'll at least be able to glance at them. We will be asking, what have we been reading? What have we been paying attention to? What have you been noticing and learning? And ideally you're reading something, like I said, in the sort of realm of the novel that you're writing, but maybe it's something else. Maybe you've been reading something that's totally different from what you normally read to try to broaden your horizons in whatever way, and that's fine too. We're going to recap parts of speech, paragraph and central idea, tense and POV, and I just want to make sure everybody knows by now the genre, tense, and POV of what they're writing. If you don't exactly know what the POVs will be yet, that may be because you haven't actually figured out your cast of characters yet, and that's okay. But we should at least try to determine what is the tense that I'm going to be writing in, what is the style of viewpoint. Are we doing first person? Are we doing third person? And to further nuance that, are we going to be writing in limited or omniscient? All these things should be considerations that are based on not only the kind of appeal that your book is going for, the kind of genre that you're in, and the audience expectations for it, but also just kind of like what you're most used to, what comes the most naturally to you. So we'll look at simile and metaphor and premise. We'll do some just sort of nitty-gritty on-the-page writing stuff today, and then of course we will want to make sure that everyone is getting their premise into shape, and we're starting to understand what is the book that everyone's writing. So we'll look at queries and loglines to try to express our premise in that one clear sentence that tells us this is what the book is about. Maybe we can, if you haven't written a version of your logline yet, we can do that today in the class to make sure that we're getting on the right track and that everyone is constructing this roadmap moving forward that's going to be really clear, and we're going to know exactly what it is that you are making. Okay, so before anything else, if you have not yet done so, you need to make your sketchbook. Hopefully, if you've been in the previous classes, you've already done this a while ago. But if you've not yet, you're going to go to Google Docs and make a brand new blank document where you're going to keep and organize all of your ideas and questions and notes for this project as you develop it. And the sketchbook is never really done. It's sort of something that you're constantly working on and updating and writing things down in as they occur to you. We're going to create a couple documents as we work through the pre-writing phase. First one is sketchbook. We move to story beats, which is a brand new document. And then from there we move to scene cards, which is another brand new document. But this is our first one, and the one that you're constantly going to be updating. And I recommend having open in every class so you can constantly be writing down ideas, writing down questions that you have or things that you aren't sure about, and you should just have it open all the time. Here's the breakdown of that process I just outlined. Logline, sketchbook, story beats, scene cards, then we go to pages. I think that's more of a screenwriting term. We don't really say that I don't think novelists or publishing people say go to pages. But this is something that I say, and it means we go from plotting and planning and preparing to write to actually executing the pages. And by the time that we get there, we should ideally have figured out the major moments of the story, and we should have that roadmap to work from, a clear outline that can tell us what's going to be happening in each chapter. So let's ask this question. What have you been reading? What have you liked, noticed, or learned? Whether these are the novelettes that I suggested or you've been reading something on your own, I would like to hear about it. Feel free to weigh in the text chat or raise your hand and tell us what have you been reading lately and what would you like to share. Tashana. Coming up, Tashana. So make sure to unmute your microphone, Tashana. Just click the small gray microphone icon in the bottom left corner. There you go.
Thank you, Conor. I apologize. Hello, good afternoon, good night, good evening, and hello, everyone. I started reading the story called Ancient Origins. It's a book series. Book 1 is called Revelation by Robert Story. I chose this book because the protagonist is female, which is similar to the book or the novel I'm trying to write. And I thought that perspective would definitely help me along as I'm trying to plot as well. There was a prologue, and it's kind of set in future 2040, also in the present, which is kind of cool. And I do like so far how the author is already bringing in a protagonist's friends, like a major part, another character that's going to probably assist the protagonist in some type of way. I'm noticing flaws. I think that's something that I don't see a lot of when I look at protagonists. They're flaws up front, very early on. But I think that's very good, and that's actually helping me keep mindful of that. And that's pretty much it. That's what I've learned so far.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Tashana. And can I ask, what tense and point of view is the book told in?
Third person, and it is the protagonist's point of view.
Okay, so it's third limited, but like close point of view to the protagonist.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, yeah, that's a very common thriller style. Thanks for sharing, Tashana.
Sure.
I'm gonna swoop you back to the audience. Let's get Amanda. So I've invited you up, Amanda. You should see a green bar at the top that says accept invitation to speak. I'll try again in a moment. Let's have Nacha.
Yeah, Amanda, if you're on a tablet, you might have to turn it sideways. That's what we found. It's like landscape mode makes the green accept invite button here. So, yeah, I read All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. And man, this is amazing. This is like, I think my only criticism is that it's so intense that it's you feel like exhausted because it's a really long, it's like 130,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
And like we open with this intense moment where there's a blind girl in, a bombed out building during the Nazi invasion of France, and there's all this, there's somebody, trying to kill her or whatever, and we're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And then we kind of go through this whole sort of parallel stories of this, blind girl whose dad works at a museum, and he's trying to hide this like incredibly valuable diamond, like the heart, the one from Titanic, something like that. And she's like, the author just does an amazing job of making you feel like you're experiencing all of these chapters that are like someone blind. Like, I mean, I can't even remember another book like that. I mean, I'm sure I've read something where somebody's blind and they're describing the smells and the textures and all this. But this is just, I mean, it's amazing. It's incredibly vivid, but it's also, not just describing what we see, right? So it's really cool. But the other character is a young boy who's very sensitive and loves, electronic engineering and, antennas and radios and stuff. And he ends up like kind of getting swept up into, the Hitler Youth and the Nazis and all this stuff. And he gets sent to something like a Harry Potter boarding school for Nazi kids kind of thing. And, there's bullies in the school, and we're seeing these two kind of lives, that we know are going to collide somehow by the end. Right. And it's, when they do, it's such an epic story that it just feels like, like, how can we can't keep this pace, we need a break or something. I think other really long novels that I've read, I mean, I don't think I've read anything that's that intense, that's quite as long, right? Usually there's, more of a, you can kind of put the book down and come back, or, maybe even some like George R.R. Martin novels that are really long, I might have read in one sitting or something, but it didn't feel like, like I'm going to have a heart attack. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
So yeah, like, I don't know. That's the only criticism. I don't even know if it's a criticism, but it's yeah, incredibly well written, just incredibly well, constructed. So yeah, highly recommend it.
Thanks for sharing that. That's All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. And that won a Pulitzer, it looks like, from the Amazon entry on it. Interesting to have a blind POV character. Just, you have to write those really differently. Reminds me, there's a novel called Blindness by Jose Saramago. There was a movie of it a long time ago, or not a long time ago, but like 10 years ago. I didn't actually see the movie, but I read this, and this is a sort of, it's almost like a zombie apocalypse novel, but there's sort of like an epidemic of blindness spreading through the world, and everybody's getting it, and so like all the characters are blind, and that leads to some, again, similar interesting ways of depicting what those characters are experiencing. So yeah, altering a character's perception can lead to radically different books, much more so than a movie, because if you're telling the whole thing from that character's point of view, we're experiencing it exclusively through them. We're not watching them go through stuff. It's like we are them going through that stuff. So that can lead to, like, just, it's really cool when you can get into the head of different characters in books. I like writing, I'm mostly writing fantasy and sci-fi, for instance, and I think it's really cool if you can have a POV character that is a magical creature or an alien or something like that, which gives you like really, really different ways of approaching the world and viewing things, and it's just some of the most fun parts of novels, is finding those unique points of view and putting your audience inside them so that they are experiencing the world that way. All right, Amanda, go ahead. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, and I heard Amanda for a second.
Yeah, I did too. Is she there?
Can you say something, Amanda? I think it's maybe your mic is...
Of course.
There we go. We can.
I heard her now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you.
You're not able to hear me?
I can.
Oh, you do? Okay. I just
Yeah.
went through that blind spot by Six Flags. Okay. So I have to read that book.
Which one? Are you still there?
So...
Oh, sorry. I think you're dropping in and out. I think you are. You, if you're driving the car, maybe you're going through like a low coverage area.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? I just
I
got back into the... Okay. So I was just saying I need to read the book Nacho mentioned, All the Light We Cannot See.
Sure.
Because my main character is underground for a third of the novel that I'm writing. So I'm like, oh, I got to check that out right now. So
yeah,
that's
sure.
next up on my list. So right, I'm reading a young middle grade book right now, which isn't the best model. It's by Edward Eager. He wrote Half Magic, I think is his most famous book, which I loved as a kid. And it's middle grade. It's not Harry Potter middle grade where it appeals to adults too, kind of thing, to the same degree. But I'm just in that space a lot. But I took a little break and read Kite Runner in like a day. So just to read an adult novel for a minute. And then I just ordered Capture. I think somebody had recommended that book to me. And I think I'm going to check out the one Nacha just mentioned next.
Cool.
I don't really have any major insights about the middle grade, except that the characters are different enough, but there's 4 characters that I kind of feel like are almost interchangeable, except for the youngest seems to be getting the most mischief. But it's kind of like Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, where they're almost cardboard characters, except for the boy who kind of rebels in the very beginning and eats the chocolate thing, the Turkish delight.
Edmund.
And I'm definitely going. I mean, it's nice to know I could create cardboard characters for middle grade, but I don't want to do that. And those are older too, right? So people expect more now after Harry Potter.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a certain line where you don't need that many. Kids' imaginations can do a lot of the work. Like, we don't need to have incredibly nuanced characters in middle grade books. I wouldn't necessarily look at it as I should have cardboard characters, so you're right to lean away from that. So yeah,
right,
so
that's not what I'm. Yeah.
If they are cardboard, it's at least very beautifully painted cardboard that we can imagine that behind that cardboard is, there's more there. But yeah, kids aren't really reading books for dense characterization though.
Right, it's the worlds, and that's become very clear to me that it's all about the world.
Yeah,
and the more
we're looking
interesting
for fun.
And magical. Yeah, fun. And this world is fun. There's a lake, and they make it's called By the Lake, magic